The worst moment of my career happened in a conference room with 12 people watching. My manager stood at the front of the table holding my report. Then he looked directly at me and said something that made the entire room uncomfortable. "Daniel, this might be the most careless analysis I have seen all year." Everyone turned to look at me. No warning, no private feedback, just public humiliation. But what my manager did not know was this: the entire meeting was being recorded. And by the end of that week, that recording would change his career, not mine. My name is Daniel. I am 30 years old, and until last year I worked as a financial analyst for a consulting company. The job itself was not unusual. Long hours, complex reports, endless meetings. But the people around you determine whether a job feels manageable or exhausting. In my case, the biggest challenge was my direct manager. His name was Chris. Chris had a reputation in the office. He believed pressure created results. Some employees described him as demanding. Others described him as aggressive. But privately, many people used a different word: unpredictable. Some days Chris praised your work enthusiastically. Other days he criticized minor details as if they were major failures. The worst part was how he delivered feedback. Instead of speaking privately, he often made comments during meetings. At first I assumed this was simply his management style. However, after several months it became clear that his criticism was rarely fair. He seemed to target specific employees repeatedly. And over time, I became one of those targets. At the same time, there were positive things in the workplace. One of them was Emma. Emma worked in the strategy department and often collaborated with my team on project forecasts. She was thoughtful, calm, and unusually good at diffusing tension during meetings. When Chris became difficult, Emma would quietly redirect the conversation back to the data. We often worked together, reviewing models late in the afternoon, after most of the office had gone home. Those moments created a quiet connection between us. Nothing dramatic, just the comfort of knowing someone else in the building understood how stressful the environment had become. Still, neither of us expected how quickly things would escalate. The incident began with a project called Atlas. Atlas was a major client analysis report that would influence a multi-million-dollar investment decision. I spent 3 weeks building the financial model. Every assumption was documented. Every variable was tested. Emma even helped review the market projections to make sure our numbers matched external research. When the report was finished, I felt confident. It was not perfect, but it was thorough. The presentation meeting was scheduled for Monday morning. Several department leaders would attend. Chris would lead the discussion. I would present the analysis. At least that was the plan. When the meeting began, something immediately felt strange. Chris asked me to send him the final file again. He said he wanted to review it before the presentation started. 10 minutes later, he walked into the conference room holding printed pages. He did not look happy. Without greeting anyone, he dropped the papers on the table. Then he began speaking. "This report contains serious mistakes." The room became silent. I felt confusion immediately. "What mistakes?" I asked carefully. Chris flipped through the pages. "These projections are unrealistic, the assumptions are weak, and the conclusions are completely irresponsible." My heart started beating faster, because I knew the analysis was solid. I opened my laptop and pulled up the model. Then I noticed something. The numbers in his printed report did not match the version on my computer. Someone had changed the formulas. My stomach dropped. But before I could explain, Chris continued. He raised his voice slightly so everyone in the room could hear him. This level of work is unacceptable. The humiliation was deliberate. Several coworkers avoided eye contact. Emma looked at me with concern. Then Chris said the sentence that changed everything. Daniel clearly does not understand the financial structure of this project. At that moment, something inside me shifted. Not anger, not panic, just awareness. Because earlier that morning, I had done something unusual. After several months of unpredictable criticism, I started recording meetings on my phone. Quietly, just in case something like this happened. And now it was happening. Every word Chris said was being captured. After the meeting ended, Emma followed me into the hallway. "That was not fair," she said. "I know," I replied. Then I explained what I noticed about the altered report. Emma frowned. "That means someone edited your file." "Yes," I said. "And I think I know who." Chris had asked for the document shortly before the meeting. He had full access to the shared drive. And if the numbers were changed after my final submission, there were only a few possible explanations. Emma hesitated. "You think he modified it?" "I do not know why," I said. "But the file history will show the answer." That afternoon, I checked the document version log. My suspicion was confirmed. The file had been edited 20 minutes before the meeting. By Chris. He had changed two formulas that significantly increased projected losses. Then he printed the report. Then he criticized the results. Suddenly, the situation made sense. He created the problem himself. And he blamed me for it. But the recording changed everything. Because the recording captured more than criticism. It captured context. It captured the moment I tried to explain the discrepancy. And it captured Chris interrupting me before I could finish. That recording showed exactly what happened. Emma listened to it that evening. Her expression became serious. "You cannot ignore this," she said. "I know. But if you report it," she continued, "it will become a major issue." I nodded slowly. "And that might be necessary." The next morning, I scheduled a meeting with Human Resources. I brought 3 things: the original report, the document history log, and the meeting recording. The HR director listened quietly. She asked several questions. Then she asked to keep a copy of the recording. Within 2 days, senior leadership became involved. Several employees were interviewed. The document history confirmed the edits, and the recording made it impossible to ignore the sequence of events. Chris attempted to explain that he was testing the analysis, but that explanation collapsed quickly, because the recording clearly showed that he presented the edited numbers as my work. 1 week later, Chris was removed from his management position. The official explanation mentioned leadership concerns. Unofficially, everyone in the department understood exactly what happened. As for me, the experience changed my reputation inside the company. Several senior managers reached out to apologize for the situation. The Atlas project was reassigned to a new supervisor. And for the first time in months, the workplace atmosphere felt calmer. Emma and I continued working together. But after everything that happened, the conversations between us felt different. Less cautious. More honest. One evening while we were finishing a report, she smiled and said something simple. "I am glad you recorded that meeting." I laughed quietly. "So am I." Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in a difficult moment is not react. It is simply let the truth speak for itself. So here is the question. If your manager publicly humiliated you at work, would you stay silent or fight back? Tell me what you would do in that situation. And if you enjoy real stories about workplace drama, unexpected karma, and moments where the truth finally comes out, subscribe to the channel, because the next story might be even more surprising.